you say who you are? You know, what role you're playing just before we start recording?
Yeah, so is somebody recording yet, or you want to do that before we record?
Not yet. Before we record, let's do.
Looks like somebody is recording.
I just started recording.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'll go first then. My name is Raylene Harmon, and in this instance, I'm going to represent Raina King, who is Leo, this week, and with regard to her claims against Johnson & Jones, and with respect to Mr. Green.
Right. So just to follow that, Raylene's going to help me out here, and we're going to get some justice.
And then I'm Martin Green. I will be representing myself.
Okay. And I am Johnson & Jones attorney. I was hired, and with me is Miss Carly, who is the managing partner of the firm.
Hello.
Okay. So let's see, because I'm the observer. So King. So Leo, you're suing Johnson?
I'm suing everybody.
Okay. Fair enough.
Leo.
So we,
Okay, so whenever you guys are ready.
Everybody ready?
You're recording?
Yep, I am. Whenever you guys are ready.
So I thought it might be helpful to kind of set out a few facts in the outset of this, not just for Esther, but for everybody else, because obviously we didn't get one another's role information. So from my perspective as Ms. King's attorney, you know, she's a hardworking and competent legal secretary. She's also a single mom who has a son in college, and she tends to be kind of a stronger woman. She's not easily upset by others, but Mr. Green's harassment and then the firm's failure to act when she did complain have caused distress for her, to the point that she's been in therapy, and she's devastated that the outcome has come to this, and she believed it was going to be a promising employment opportunity for her. So at this time, she has lodged a charge with the EEOC, and if the settlement conference is unsuccessful, she's not going to have another choice but to pursue all the remedies available to her, including a formal complaint with the Bar Association against Mr. Green and the filing of a formal complaint under Title VII, which would include a request for punitive and compensatory damages, among other claims, against both Mr. Green and Johnson & Jones, jointly and severally. So during her tenure with the firm, she learned that she's not the only secretary that's experienced this problem with Mr. Green, and we're pretty confident that the other secretaries, with their help, that this whole issue is going to be fully fleshed out in a public courtroom. So Johnson & Jones also, and along with Mr. Green, took a few hostile and retaliatory actions when she did bring this up. So we are confident that with Seattle's liberal climate and their embrace of the Me Too movement, that this would result in a fairly sizable award for Miss Green, or for Miss King. And with that being said, we believe an appropriate settlement in this matter will be about $10 million.
Ms. Green.
Wow.
As managing partner of Johnson & Jones, I really feel like the firm took appropriate action when Ms. King brought this to our attention. She didn't exactly follow our policies and procedures that she agreed to when she was hired. And again, she only worked for our firm for about 12 weeks. I think that settlement is extremely high. I don't know if the attorney for Johnson & Jones wants to start off with maybe an offer on our end.
No, I wanted to start with just making sure that we are all on the same page with regards to the culture of zero tolerance of sexual, against sexual harassment in the Johnson &
Oh, Rosa, you're frozen.
Yeah.
Jones firm. I wanted the managing partner to speak to, the culture and the sexual harassment policy that is in place before jumping into the merits of the case. So, Ms. Carly, if you can elaborate on our policy, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a zero tolerance policy in regards to sexual harassment in the workplace. When Ms. King brought this to our attention, she was transferred out of that office to avoid any further issues.
That's retribution. That's retribution you took against me. That's illegal.
I'm sorry, Ms. King. First of all, please allow us to, we want to amicably solve this situation. If you could control your emotions, and if we can, talk without really accusing my client of retaliation is not going to help us tonight. So if you could collaborate with us, with communicating with respect, we will do the same with you.
That's great, but the firm did nothing to help me when I brought this to their attention. In fact, they took it out on me by reassigning me, and that's a form of retribution, and that's illegal.
As you guys can understand, Ms. King's emotions are running fairly high. This is an attack on her direct character, and she's understandably upset by the situation.
Well, and we can understand her state of mind, and we can definitely, we want to do what is fair. But if we can just, have a respectful communication, we can move forward with discussing, what we're here to do today. So, one of the things that we wanted to bring to your attention is the fact that we have an internal process. We have, Ms. King was employed at the firm for a total of 12 weeks. She had recently conducted and went through the onboarding compliance process, and she acknowledged having received and reviewed and understood what our policies are against sexual harassment, and she did not follow proper procedure. She did not file a written complaint as per the employee manual. We have an open door policy. We do not tolerate sexual harassment, and I think we took a reasonable, amount of care to correct what the allegations were at that point. She started working with us 8 weeks had transpired, and she came to talk to the HR manager, and we obviously took her allegations seriously, for which we transfer her to another area. And then, 4 weeks after, at 12 weeks, she quit. So we did not have a chance to properly correct, and we were in the process of addressing the situation when she quit her job, so
Respectfully, the fact that the person that was harassing her was her supervisor, that allows her to make a claim with the EEOC without following your internal procedures because of that fear of retaliation, which, as it turns out, was entirely right for her. So although she did not follow all of the procedures that you're referencing, she did go to the firm office manager, who essentially dismissed her claim and made her feel like she was completely wrong for having voiced her concern, and just dismissed her out of hand as if Mr. Green were just playing some joke on her, and that was entirely inappropriate. Then the reassignment happened without ever having even consulted her. She just showed up to work one day with a new assignment. Clearly, Mr. Green had not been, disciplined in any way, because he continued to harass her in the hallways and in the common areas.
And that's not true at all.
Well, there are other witnesses that say it is.
Who?
Those names will likely come out in court if need be, if they decide to assert their claims as well. We will not put their job in jeopardy.
Okay, I understand that I'm representing myself. There was never any sexual harassment that ever went on. When Ms. King did start with us,
You threw a pencil at my breasts.
I did not. That is not true. And I'm not going to sit here and argue it's your word against mine. I've never done anything like that. And all this just is unbelievable that this has even come about. I've never done anything like that to anybody. I've always been a fun-loving guy, never sexually harassed, never even been accused of sexually harassing anybody. And this is just all ridiculous.
So clearly it's going to be a he said, she said. The fact is that there's witnesses that saw this happen, including during a local staff meeting at a restaurant where there were people standing around where incidents occurred. So with regard to the merits of the case, we're happy to flesh that out in court, but we're here to try to resolve the matter.
So I just wanted to, for the record, that Mr. Green has never, we have never received in our firm a sexual harassment claim against him, and no other secretaries or other staff members or fellow attorneys have come forward against Mr. Green. So, your allegations of they go beyond what the scope of what our own internal investigation, the facts that we have in front of us are very different from those that, Ms. King alleges.
And we understand that, but the current climate, the social climate that's out there, and with regard to many things that have happened in the media recently, it's very clear that because it's not part of your internal investigation doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Oh, it doesn't mean that it happened either.
Yeah, even with the social climate the way that it is, if we go to trial, there still has to be evidence of wrongdoing on Mr. Green's part. And I don't think that we have that, and I think it would be beneficial to both or all parties involved to settle.
So I do have, on behalf of the firm, I do have a question for Ms. Green, if she would be kindly enough, if she's up to it. We would like to ask her a question, Ms. Green. We do want to be fair. Do you want your job back? Is that something that you would consider as to settle this case?
Do you mean Ms. King? Because Green is still employed there as a partner.
Ms. King.
Ms. King.
I'm not sure I trust anybody at the firm other than some of the friends that I met when I worked there, because the firm didn't take my claim seriously. And further, you took retribution against me. I don't know that I could work there with Mr. Green still being there and knowing the culture that exists in that organization.
Ms. Green, Ms. King, we want to let you know that we will hold Mr. King liable for his actions and behavior, but we want to focus on you today. And what is your hope that happens today? What are you hoping that happens today?
Well, I want justice. I want justice. I'm going to let my attorney speak for me. We've talked about these ideas, these concerns extensively, and I think I'll let her address your question.
Okay, thank you. We wanted, obviously, we're concerned about you personally, and we wanted to hear, your what you have to say, but we'll definitely, talk to your legal representative. Absolutely.
So I don't think that it's not a fair ask of Ms. King to come back to a work environment she perceived to be hostile. And that is why she walked away from it in the first place. So asking her to come back with Mr. Green still employed there, or with his boys club still running the show, doesn't seem to be an amicable resolution to this.
Like I said, we will handle Mr. Green at a later time. You know, he will be he will answer to us, but tonight we're here, you know, to talk about Ms. King.
Mr. Green should be disbarred.
So you mentioned your your request was 10. What I can you repeat, attorney for Ms. King, what your claim is, what you're asking it is?
Sure. So I believe that, you know, or if you don't, then I should let you know that Miss King has been in therapy since prior to her leaving the firm, as she was at a loss as to what to do next. So she is seeking to recover the costs that she spent on therapy, as well as lost wages and punitive damages. So our thought is that a fair amount is $10 million.
So let me stop you there, because you know, like I said, I want to be fair, but I want you to be fair with us as well. And she lost wages because she quit her job.
To quit her job, and that would be a wrongful termination.
Well, no, that's the allegation. That's the allegation. And at this point, we're not in trial. We're trying to figure it out if we can settle this matter before moving to trial. And so, so the lost wages, we don't know whether she was in therapy or no, because she quit her job and she left the firm. So there has been no communication. We attempted to remedy the situation, but she quit. That's the truth. So just to let you know where we are at, we think, and again, I want to stress enough, you know, that we want to be fair and not getting to, you know, a more intrusive option of going to trial. You know, the national average, the salary of a legal admin in the U.S. is $40,000 a year. So we think that a fair option for Ms. King is a settlement in the amount of, and I'm going to see my notes because, you know, it's what what my clients and I talked about. Yes, so it you know, we were thinking of $1,000 per week that she was employed for 12 weeks. So $1,000 per week, that's $1,200, which is you know, more than she made when she was employed. And again, I want to remind you that she quit her job.
Raylene, this is ridiculous.
I'm sorry?
Raylene, this is ridiculous.
I agree.
Well, I thought that you were going to speak on her behalf.
It wasn't just the lost wages, but also the fact that she had excellent benefits. She also had to foot the bill for this therapist out of her pocket. She's lost her 401k contribution. She's had to dip into her savings. And should we go to trial, I am confident that we will prove that this was a wrongful termination, which was essentially you forced her hand to quit because you moved her to this other place without having taken any action against Mr. Green. And
you know, Ms. Harmon, and I have here our managing partner. Those are, you know, you can allege all that you want. Again, you know, we want to see what we can come, you know, in terms during this conversation. We're ready to go to trial if necessary. That's not what we want. But you know, she never filed a proper complaint. She did not follow the process that was in place, even though she acknowledged having received training for it. You know, your case is not as solid as you may think it is. So, are you not accepting our offer?
At $12,000, no, that's an unacceptable offer.
Okay, so I'm looking at my notes, and what the most that we can come up at, to offer you at this time, and again, knowing that what the national average in the U.S. what a legal admin makes is $40,000. We feel that $2,000 per week compensation is also more than fair. It's a lot of money. So our offer would be $24,000, just in an effort to avoid to go to litigation. Because if you want to go to litigation, let me tell you that that's just the beginning. When you file a lawsuit, you go to a court of law. It's a lawsuit is just the beginning, and as you know, we have the resources. So what we want to do, and we want to be fair to Ms. King, is is to settle tonight.
We would like to settle tonight too. And as you know, I have the tenacity to take it to trial, regardless of your big firm resources. So that being said, $24,000 is not going to be enough to get this done. But I would, as you keep mentioning the national average for a legal admin salary, I would also like to remind you of the case law that's out there recently regarding settlements in the millions of dollars. So I don't believe that juries or judges are shy about awarding, punitive damages where they are warranted, which they clearly are here.
It's like Mr. King said, is what you say, what he says. Are you not accepting my offer?
At $24,000, no.
Are you going to come? What is your counter?
We would be willing to
Raylene,
consider. Yes.
why don't you explain to them some of the cases we talked about where the typical award for this kind of sexual harassment combined with retribution, which is illegal, results in awards that are in the millions of dollars.
But you're also talking about cases that have a ton of evidence and a lot of witnesses, and this case doesn't have it. There is
I would direct you specifically to Weeks versus Baker and McKenzie, which was a 1998 case on this specific Title VII, where there was an award of $3.5 million, but that was reduced from $7.1 million. Keep in mind, this is 1998, and now it is 2018, hence the higher offer.
The fact of the matter is this is all being brought to whatever you want to call it, because she just wasn't a good fit for our company from the beginning. She was just not a good employee. There was a lot of assistance that myself and other employees had to provide to her, which in my opinion shouldn't have to be. It's pretty basic stuff she couldn't do.
You were perfectly happy with her performance until she refused to go to a hot tub party with you.
No, that's not true. That is not true at all.
I have witnesses to some of your
keep saying that. Yeah, you keep saying that.
I just want to, for the record, that Mr. Green's position is not our position.
So maybe Mr. Green should foot some of this settlement.
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing to give some of it just to kind of get this case over and done with. I mean, I would be willing to maybe give $5,000.
That's all Ms. King's dignity is worth to you, $5,000.
Raylene,
It's not true. It's just all false accusations. They're not true. There is no evidence. There's no proof. You have nothing. And I'm that confident.
Raylene, I'd rather go to the Seattle Times than take $5,000 from Mr. Green.
Understood. And in today's social media climate, I would imagine that this would go viral in a hurry. So that being said, you are at $29,000. Is that for 29-ish, including Mr. Green's $5,000 contribution?
Correct.
And I think that Ms. King would be comfortable with reducing our amount to $7.5 million, which would have been the 1998 demand in the case I referenced.
So I don't know where you know, this is not trial. There are no punitive damages right here tonight. They're not lost wages. They're, you know, just so you know, it's you know, this is a lot of money that we're talking about, and you know, if and I'm just going to throw what it's my absolute max, and this is it for the firm, and that would be, you know, going up to $36,000, which is the equivalent of $3,000 per week for the 12 weeks that she was employed, and that's all that we can do tonight. And you know, so that's our position. Ms. Carly, if you want to add anything else, but you know, we think we've been fair. We've offered, you know, the tools for Ms. King to you know, process this situation. She did not. So our hands are tied. You know, she left the firm, she quit her job at 12 weeks, you know, this is more than fair. 36, you know, that's almost a year's salary, and that's our final position. That's our final offer.
And we cannot accept that at $36,000.
Mr. King, do you have anything to say? Mr. Green?
I mean, the highest I'll be willing to add to that is $10,000. So we can make it $46,000, but I will not go higher than $10,000. We have some of the best litigators ever, and if this goes to trial, then so be it.
This sounds exactly like the Harvey Weinstein firm, where you take advantage of women and then you try to silence them.
With all due respect, our firm is a very serious firm. We're offended by your remarks. We have been more than decent and straightforward. Our policies are, you know, written. They're, you know, we train everyone in our firm. So we take your remarks are very offensive to us.
And I would remind you also that the policies that you're referencing, they don't do the job. They don't get it done. And the fact that Mr. Green was Ms. King's direct supervisor put her in a position that was impossible. Had she followed the policy to a T, then she would have just suffered more retaliation than she did as she did when she just went to the office manager. So while you're talking about, you know, the punitive damages not being real, I assure you her emotional distress is very real, as was her therapy bills and all the other expenses that she's incurred during this time.
And you know, it's unfortunate, and we're very sorry that, you know, she went through a difficult time. However, our firm feels that we're making a very reasonable offer, and at this time, you know, like I said, that was our max offer. So we respectfully, you know, we have no counter to your claim. And
did we lose Esther?
I think so. She's just the observer.
Leo, are you recording as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I didn't want the recording to die if she lost the connection or something.
I do see, and I'm not sure how this was set up, but on my screen it says remaining meeting time is 8 minutes and 8 seconds.
Yeah,
Right.
I see that
But
too.
we don't need 8 minutes. We can end it. We know we have no other offer on the table.
And 46,000 is not enough for us to settle tonight.
Well, it looks like we'll proceed to the agency, to the Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission, and at which time, we will continue this conversation. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, are we done?
We are.
Just pause it. Yeah.
Okay.